Hey folks, John here from openorg. Really excited to talk to you all today. Thank you very much for watching this. It's a very short talk on unlocking the power of transparency for your employer brand. And by way of an introduction, I wanted to kind of start off with a story. And so this is kind of a personal experience I had, which is summed up pretty much by this quote. So this was kind of rewind many years actually. It was a day one experience in a new job where I kind of was shouting this at myself in my head, not like a very sane man, honestly. But what had happened was I'd been in quite a long hiring process, and I thought I'd asked kind of pretty good questions to get decent signal on how the business worked, how the teams worked together. And I'd met hiring manager, met members of the team, career site had looked great, said all these things that I believed. Glassdoor didn't look too bad, kind of done all the usual stuff. And the role was really exciting. On face value, it was exactly what I was after, like lots of transformation, kind of enabling me to shift from sort of product organizational change, which is what I've done historically, into kind of more of the people world, which is kind of where I was trying to get into at the time. And it ticked everything for me, and I was really, really excited. And I remember got into the role and was kind of doing the onboarding on day one, and within about 2 hours, I was kind of starting to realize that I maybe made a huge mistake. Within 2 days, I realized I had made a huge mistake, and within 2 weeks, I realized that basically, let's say 90% of what had been said kind of in that interview process, in that hiring process, turned out to kind of be the polar opposite. So I felt at the end of that 2 weeks pretty wretched. I was in a pretty bad place, and was kind of feeling like, why on earth have I just quit my last job, which was, by the way, really, really good. I was very happy there. I wasn't quite sort of being pushed enough, and wasn't learning as fast and as much as I wanted to learn. Anyway, it created a very bad taste in my mouth, and it definitely prevented me from sort of doing my best work there. And I stuck it out for a while, and then I quit because I wasn't right for that company. That company wasn't right for me. And I want to be clear on one thing, like, this is not me saying that organization had a bad culture. I don't really believe in this whole good versus bad culture. I think your culture is what it is. Your ways of working will suit some people perfectly, and other people, they won't suit at all. So I thought I'd start there because it sets the scene a little bit for what I've seen and what you probably yourselves have experienced personally. It was this concept of culture catfishing, and you have to excuse my bad ChatGPT art there, but this was the image I landed with. It's pretty cool, I think. But anyway, this culture catfishing, personally, I think is like the least intelligent approach to employer branding and talent acquisition. And what I mean by this is kind of where we, as employer brands, we try and sort of Instagram one up each other on like presenting ourselves as this perfectly manufactured and manicured version of ourselves online. And we kind of paint this dream picture of how our business works and our ways of working. And we get into this kind of like competition with other brands about it. And really, we're not serving anyone. And it is a form of catfishing, because when someone kind of comes into the hiring process, this representation of our reality is like continued by the hiring manager, because they don't want to look stupid, because everyone says this externally. So they either at that point kind of maybe slightly fudge the truth, or are slightly opaque about how stuff actually gets done. And it kind of creates this ripple effect. My personal experience that I just shared is like one of those little ripples. Anyway, it's not just my personal experience, and it's not just like folks on the call that have had this. Like, wanted to kind of paint this picture of the world of work right now, which sort of talks to this a bit. So some pretty shocking stats, I think. Like Forbes, McKinsey, and Slack have all done studies on this, and it's interesting. It's also like pretty heartbreaking, I think, personally, because we're talking about like people's lives and people's jobs and people's big career decisions that they have to make with pretty limited data. But just to zoom in on like the state of the world of work, like right now as it is, so 36% of hiring managers say they've lied to candidates about a role. Forbes, 30% of new hires leave within 90 days because either the role doesn't meet their expectations or the company culture wasn't what they expected based on the employer brand and the positioning. McKinsey, 87% of employees surveyed as part of the Slack report want more transparency from their employers, or they're looking for more of it in the next job. Slack. So super interesting. And I think what's really interesting here is it kind of paints a picture of not just like the candidate experience, but it's also about the people experience. And I think that's the message I just want to leave you with on this one, which is when we're talking about employer branding, for me, that starts from within, starts with your culture. And then it's about creating like an authentic lens into that. That's kind of what employer branding is doing. And I'll come on to kind of why that's important in a moment. But world of work right now, this is kind of how I'll set the scene. And you've probably kind of seen remnants of this in your own experiences or felt it through friends and family. And so with that backdrop, I'm kind of here saying what I've learned. And there was a point where I realized that everything I've been taught about employer branding was wrong. And it reminded me of Morpheus in the Matrix for those fellow nerds on the call. And the thing that we're taught over and over and over again is that, you know, employer branding is about putting your best possible version of yourself out there. We're going to take the parts of your culture that are amazing and we're going to amplify them. We're going to push aside all the other stuff. We're going to just focus on what's great and what perceived great is from other people in the market. And we're going to try and agencies will say things like, you know, we need to revamp your career site. We need to put new colors on your core values, better statements there. Or my favorite one, we need to get as many eyes as possible on your job ads. And like, it got me thinking, it was like all of those things are optimizing for the wrong thing. So all of those things are optimizing for quantity, not quality. And I think this gets to the kind of the kernel of the problem. And the kernel of the problem is that if what we're doing is optimizing for quantity over quality, then we start to play the wrong game. We start to play everyone else's game. And we start to kind of compete on this weird, fake Instagram version of ourselves. And we start competing on like perks and benefits. And, you know, I'm not going to do the whole like ping pong table speech here, but like those kinds of things, because that's like, okay, that's what everyone thinks are great. Therefore, that's what I need to kind of like showcase. Whereas actually like the value, I would say the value is in authentically sharing like how you actually do your best work together as a team, or a team of teams, in an attempt to attract like the people that will subscribe to that, and equally to repel the people that won't. And that's kind of where I think the magic is. But kind of the problem is, like I was saying just now, most companies don't do that. Most companies pretend to be something they're not. And what this creates is an absence of trust right at the very beginning of a relationship between candidate, applicant, and employer. And trust, like we've all read Patrick Lencioni's 5 Assumptions of a Team, trust is everything. Trust is everything to a team. Everything in a relationship. It's everything. And yet we're playing games that don't allow us to start a relationship with trust. And the point of this short talk is to offer a kind of new perspective on that. And you heard me use these words earlier just now. If you've not read this book, it's like phenomenal. So definitely go and grab it. So Brian Adams and Charlotte Wood, they co-authored this book called Give and Get. Really, really good book on employer brand. One of their key tenets is this core idea. It's like, it's about attracting and repelling the right talent for your business. And we're like, at openorg, we're super, super big advocates of this point of view. Because, and again, going back to that point just now, zero trust and absence of trust is bad for business. And just to think about that ripple effect one more time, just to kind of anchor it. If you start a relationship right at the front end of the kind of the experience, front end of the candidate experience, that creates a bad experience for candidates, right? If you're presenting yourself as something you're not, you're trying to convince people to join you based on something you're not, they will join you. Possibly the wrong people will join you. They will also have a bad experience from day one. There's a mismatch there. Doesn't stop there though. Ripples one more time, which is they won't do their best work. They won't do their best work. Their team will be impacted by them not doing their best work. Second ripple. And that is not good for business. Third ripple, they might leave early and you've just wasted a whole bunch of time and money, not just in that team, but also in your talent team as well. So fourth ripple, if that's happening, and even if it's happening a bit, right? If that's happening across your business, you amplify that up. The impact on bottom and top line through people not doing their best work. That is a CEO problem. That is a problem every CEO would care about. So zero trust, bad for business. And I would say, therefore, there's no point lying. When it comes to employer branding, there's no point lying. Okay, John, yeah, fine. I agree, yeah. But everyone else is doing this. Everyone else is playing this game. And you're right. This is ubiquitous. If you take 20 career sites out there, you might find, if you're lucky, you might find one that talks in balance, talks about not just all the sunshine and rainbows, but actually goes into kind of some depth on like the kind of folks that thrive here, the kind of folks that don't, what a bad day looks like, the ins and outs, right? But I think what's really exciting about this is that because everyone else is doing that, you have an opportunity to differentiate. And the beautiful thing about it is, in differentiating through transparency, you are inherently being unique. It's like very, very rare to find two businesses that operate in exactly the same way, have the same approach to people management, leadership, feedback, this kind of, and that kind of shape across all of those different dimensions, all of the, so I like to think of culture as kind of all of the how we do X, right? That's your unique competitive advantage from an employer branding point of view. And that's kind of what I find very exciting. And so like intro, transparency, I think, is the new way of doing employer branding. And we're gonna kind of go into this in a little bit more depth now. I thought about what I could kind of share today, and we've got Adam and I are kind of furious curators and creators in this space. So we had a chat together, and we're like, I'm not sure what we should share, how much we should share. So we're going to share all of it, but not. You'll be pleased to know not all of it in the next 10 minutes. So I wanted to do three things. So one, just a little bit of a spotlight on some folks that are just doing this stuff like really, really well. And you will have definitely heard of one of them, I guarantee it. But I also wanted to kind of showcase some folks you might not have heard of that I think are doing really, really cool things. So that's kind of piece one. Number two, I just wanted to share a bit of our data set, which I think you might find interesting. So it's not stuff we've shared like that publicly. Not a lot of people know about it, but it's kind of quite an interesting niche data set that talks to this specific piece. And third, I just wanted to leave you with some tangibles, some kind of next steps, and a little bit of a almost like mini baby framework, if you like, to get started. So like if transparency is on your roadmap, you've got something to just sort of have and use and think about. But after that, I'm also going to share like all of our open source materials as well. So that's what we'll do. So to kick things off, like inspiring folks leading the way. There are a bunch of folks here, but like I would be not doing my job if I didn't like give a shout out to Buffer. So they're like OGs of this whole kind of mindset. Yeah, if you don't know them or haven't checked them out, definitely do. Their dashboard on the right, like it's completely open, transparent shareholder updates, open salaries, open commercials. They are like super good at this stuff. And it also drives a lot of hiring success for them, both in terms of quality and quantity. But quality is the one I care about, as you know. And I love that quote from the CEO there. So the reason behind their kind of push towards this space and to be more transparent about like actually how work gets done and how they're doing it as a business, is just because it scares the right people away, which I think is like the perfect summary of that whole idea of like we want to attract and repel the right people for our business. Second, again, probably reasonably well known, this one, I imagine, but GitLab, if you've not checked out GitLab, they open source like basically everything. Their public employee handbook is probably one of the best kind of documentations of culture out there, from everything from kind of like how do we reinforce behaviors, how we make decisions, operating principles, all of the how-tos. What's so impressive about what they do, in my opinion, is just the like relentless focus on this idea of show not tell. So rather than a kind of career site that says, hey, our culture is this, our values are this, they share their actual kind of like operating procedures underneath it and how they operationalize that. And those are like live documents for their internal team. So it's used like day in, day out, which adds this like whole new level of authenticity to it, which is why kind of the movement towards public employee handbooks is like both like really exciting for people like me, but also exciting for candidates and job seekers, because it's like, okay, well, I can trust that. That's something I can trust because it's in use every day. That's really strong signal on an organization's culture, and a huge like benefit to kind of doing that whole public employee handbook project, I suppose. Third, I want to talk about Switchy. So Switchy, an awesome company, around 100 people. They have a fantastic head of people there, Olya, definitely worth a follow on LinkedIn. So Olya took Switchy through the openorg accreditation. They are the highest scoring accredited openorg currently, with like incredible alignment score and trust score from their employees, which is kind of a bit like can we trust what we see as what we're going to get? And you'll see they do some really like small but incredibly powerful like rituals. And one of my absolute favorite is this reality check that they've built into their onboarding process. So they measure actually like does what we say about ourselves online reflect what you experience in onboarding and then thereafter 30, 60, 90 day. And they actually measure that delta to keep themselves accountable for presenting their culture externally as being what it says on the tin. Absolutely love this. And they're also just a great example of a people team that focus maniacally on like candidate and people experience. So definitely worth checking out if you've not had a look. And then the fourth little vignette that I wanted to share is Bipit. So Bipit, they have an amazing people person there, Emily Civy. Definitely worth a follow on LinkedIn as well. She's kind of driven like a real focus on candidate experience, and they leverage transparency in their employer brand in a whole load of ways, but I just want to zero in on one because I think it's really powerful as a kind of trust building piece. And that is they share their CX metrics. So these are public, so people applying can see this. They share their time to hire, their time to respond, when they give feedback, where, what stage, how, who they're going to meet. It's a very, very transparent hiring process. And it just, again, going back to that earlier point, it just builds trust from like day -1, not even day one. So we're huge fans, huge advocates, and also hope that just gives a little bit of a scent of the fact that, this isn't stuff that's like only for really big companies or like really early stage kind of scrappy startups. These are initiatives that you can run, whether you're a VP of people at 50, 100, 500, 1,000. So I think that's very, very exciting, and that's kind of the new trajectory that I hope that we can kind of all take the world of work in together. I wanted to share, as I mentioned earlier, just a little sneak peek on some kind of interesting data set that we have access to at openorg, which is so we help companies in a couple of different ways. We have an accreditation that's like a kite mark that's purely focused around transparency and trust, and you kind of saw like the switchy story a little bit on there earlier, and we also have run learning and development cohorts and boot camps for people and talent folks looking to kind of get inspired and actually work through some of these projects. This data set is from that first kind of arm of our business. So this is a snapshot of 168 like organizations who are beginning their openorg accreditation journey, and like that can take three months plus. There's like a lot of work, there's a lot of project work, a lot of proof points that need to be kind of made throughout. But I think what's really interesting about this is these are all companies who care about transparency and want to leverage it or improve on it for people experience or candidate experience gains. And so I view this as a kind of segment of like pretty progressive organizations, I guess. And what's interesting is the amount of red. And so red is like, we currently aren't transparent about this particular dimension of our culture. Dimensions of culture are the top line. That's kind of the backbone of our framework. And so I just want to like cherry pick a few out here because it might be kind of interesting and surprising. So like, probably not surprising is the focus at the moment on like compensation transparency, so salary and equity and what that means, like helping candidates like truly understand meaningful range. None of the 90 grand to 900 grand nonsense that we've seen in the Valley in Cali for over the last couple of years. Netflix, but like real transparency on ranges here. So like, probably no surprise, you can see like a lot of green there, right? Everyone is trying to improve there. They know that's what talent wants. Like, it's becoming the new norm. What's interesting is like what candidates want around some things that people might not think about. So like meeting philosophy is a massive deal for like particularly product and engineering folks, but I think broadly like it's becoming bigger. And like people really care about this. Like, what are your meetings for? How do you do them? Like, what's your kind of view on sync, async, tooling associated with? And not a lot of people are being transparent about that. And it's often quite like a small, easy tweak to make. So I thought you might find that one interesting. I think also like leadership team makeup. So where your leadership team come from. Have they been promoted from within, staying in? What was their kind of their career path? Is it that you've got a leadership team that all shared the same domain, or they all came from the same kind of university, etc., etc. Like obviously, kind of the ethnicity and gender kind of piece in there as well. So folks are really like interested in that. They want to see that, and again, not a lot of businesses make that very easy to find. Or talk about why that is. And the other one I'll just kind of pull out of here, which I won't go through all of them, but hopefully you're getting a little bit of a snapshot here, is the whole like when and where we work. And I'm not talking about kind of I'm not talking about like the flexibility side of things here. I'm talking more about things like remote. So people are using the word remote all the time. Like, it's got to a point where it's now become almost meaningless, because one company's remote can actually mean 3 days in the office, and another company's remote can mean 100% asynchronous, one meeting a month. And so just that little bit of extra clarity on things like that is super important for folks kind of in the market. So employer brands can kind of get quite a big level up by just thinking about some of these things in a different way, and tweaking job ads with a little bit of copy change, tweaking career site, bit of copy change. Just providing extra clarity helps build extra trust, I guess, is the main point. Anyway, I'll move on, because I did want to just cover kind of some practical kind of next steps before we kind of close, and there's a few things to chat through. But Adam, my co-founder, and I, we get asked quite a lot, what's the blueprint for kind of going after some of this stuff? And like, it's pretty simple, but I thought I'd just share it and maybe share a couple of the benefits as well. So if like transparency is on your roadmap, it's on your agenda, you're thinking about it as a way to reset trust after a difficult restructure, you've had to make layoffs, or if you've got a leadership team who are kind of perceived in a way that you maybe hope they weren't, you're looking to kind of rebuild trust internally, or you've got a hiring push coming up and you're looking to, really make sure you get kind of quality, not quantity. And you're looking to kind of adopt some of that attract and repel. Transparency is on your agenda, one of those kind of triggers, I suppose. There's a little 3-step process that we kind of like, and it's very simple, so it's easy to remember. So one is like align internally and co-create. So example here would be like meetings. Do we have a way that we're happy about the way we do it? Sorry, do we have a way of doing meetings that we think is like good? We're all like, yes, this is kind of a success blueprint. So that's the align. If yes, kind of great, write it down, make it pretty. If no, opportunity to co-create new version. So you've kind of got a little, almost a little change loop going on here, which is cool as well, because it kind of there's a productivity and an engagement piece in that alone. So say it wasn't working, okay, couple of workshops or async Miro board, 72 hours, put an idea out there, get folks contributing to it, or a Notion page or something like that, Confluence page. And then, once you've got like a prototype internally, it's like, okay, is this what we subscribe to? Yes. So you've got an opportunity to align at that point. All the while, lots of screenshots, sharing, maybe documenting kind of the journey internally. That suddenly you've created a really authentic blog post that the people team can post and share, which is another kind of talent magnet in itself, right? In that Instagram soup of companies being quite fake online. Interesting. Here's a company that are actually doing something. They're proving it with pictures and documentation, and they show they care about this stuff. And okay, meetings is something I care about, and they've done the work, and that's how they've done it. So you create step 2, share journey, a really beautiful kind of opportunity to share authentically online, which is free-ish marketing, and another kind of great contributing piece of content to your whole employer brand, as people will find that online and check you out. The third step, so you've created alignment, you've built the thing internally, you've documented it, you've shared your journey, go public, put it live, right? If how you do meetings is, if that's kind of like important and it's part of your success blueprint, share it externally. So candidates, as part of maybe like a hiring playbook, or indeed a public employee handbook, if you go down that route, they can click through and see, okay, this is how this business does meetings. And they'll either go, okay, well, that's too many, or I don't like those tools, or I don't like the way that company's doing it, which is great. We've repelled folks that wouldn't probably work out, or you get people who are like, actually, I'm excited by that. Maybe a step too far to say someone's really excited about your meeting cadence, but you'd be surprised. But I think that's the kind of like pattern that we tend to advocate, and it is deliberately very, very simple. But in terms of in terms of kind of, I suppose, like actual tangibles, and I just picked like one very small example. If you're kind of looking for like the more of the macro, just thought I'd share this, which is a little four-stepper. So one, again, if transparency is on your roadmap, but you're not, you're not like native transparency, it's not kind of been born from founder values, and all the way up to wherever you are now. But it's something that, has come up in like a survey as like a critical theme. And you're kind of like, okay, this is something we need to adopt, but how do I go about it? I think, there's like a business casey bit, which we've got a template on that I'll share after it. I'm going to skip that. And let's say we've got the sign off. It's really important to kind of like figure out what transparency means to your business and why it's important, and to try and articulate that. So some kind of like you have a compensation philosophy, have a transparency philosophy. It's kind of where we go with this stuff. Second is like do the kind of feedback piece really well. Ask the team like where are the biggest opportunities, prioritize them that will kind of impact effort grid on a Miro board or a Figma or something. Like where in our ways of working do you wish for more transparency? Is it? And you'll hear things like, well, it's how we share financials, how we align, or what teams are working on what goals, big decisions like who's making them, how are they made, what was the kind of process for them. Or it might be actually, do you know what, the way we give each other feedback's really subpar. I wish we had more transparency on like what the right approach was. Or everybody's using tool X and tool Y weirdly. I think it would be good if we maybe aligned on how we should use those tools together so that we were effective across teams. Whatever it might be, get the insight from your team. That's point 2. And then third step, and this is a bit of a mishmash, this one, and it kind of depends a little bit, but typically you've got that opportunity to do the piece that I was talking about earlier. This is a little co-creation loop where you can either refresh pages in your employee handbook, share that journey, push it live, or refresh kind of copy on your job ads, rewrite kind of policy or guidelines, or run an experiment, right? If you design kind of a new component of your culture as a result of that step 2, like pick meetings again, right? If actually the way we do meetings isn't like agreed on, we don't have a good blueprint for success. Let's try an experiment of the new scary meeting cadence that our teams designed from grassroots. Let's run that as an experiment in product or in sales and see how that goes after 4 weeks. Did it improve X, Y, Z? So those are some of the options I think kind of in number 3. And then wrapping this is that kind of build in public style, sharing the journey, and it's like people team as marketing team, which I think is a pretty powerful, relatively low cost way to generate authentic content, and not, as we said at the beginning, as many eyes as possible, the right eyes, that quality over quantity piece. So final thing from me, we have like a ton of free open source resources that are all about this space. So if you vibe with anything I've said today, you're interested in like going down the rabbit hole and going a little bit deeper, I won't promise we have like a template for everything, but I would hope we nearly do. So feel free to check out like our resources library, and also like just come and say hi anytime. I'd love to like chat to folks at this event, and I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn. So please come say hi anytime. Adam and I live and breathe this stuff. It is our absolute passion, and we love working with progressive people leaders. So hope we can connect soon. Cheers. Thanks. Bye.